Your blood runs orange and blue. This is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
And with that, the Knicks are just one win away from advancing to the NBA Finals. What's up? This is Orange and Blue Bloods. This is your boy EJ Stewart. We got to talk about it. We got to praise these boys. We got to get lit. We got to get hyped because the Knicks are on the precipice of doing something quite special. They are now one win away from advancing to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Oh, it's beautiful right now.
The vibes are immaculate.
Indeed they are.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks.
The Knicks, after a dominant, once again, road performance where they go into Cleveland, win by double digits, snatch the heart out of an opponent looking to work their way back into a series against the Knicks, now have an opportunity to clinch the Eastern Conference and punch their ticket to the NBA Finals with a win in Game 4 on Monday. So we're going to talk everything about what happened in Game 3. We're going to preview Game 4. We got to get into a bunch of stuff that happened over the last 24 hours. It's been a busy 24 hours for your boy, whether it came to the stuff I got to do. Shout out to New York Post Sports, hanging out with my guy Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca. That's why this episode got out a little later than normal. I had a really late night the previous night because I was on the Watch Live party for the New York Got Game live stream show that they do. So hey, if you want to relive how awesome Game 3 was, head over to their YouTube and their social media handles for New York Post Sports and check us out, because that was a fun show and I had a great time with those guys. Those guys are awesome. Dex is the man, Brian's the man, and we had a great show. So between interaction I had on social media this morning, that as I record this on Sunday evening, that I'm not gonna be fugazi, I kind of invited, but was still shocked that it happened. And I was kind of shocked by the response I got from somebody talking about ripping the heart out of your opponent the way the Knicks did. That is not a quote from me. That's a quote from somebody that has been not only a kind of virtual op for your boy, but kind of a virtual op for all Knicks fans. So we'll get to that later in the show. And again, just a kind of a wild existence. It's a wild time. I mean, the Knicks are playing a level of basketball, which is something we talked about a ton on the New York Got Game live stream last night, that, like I've said a ton of times during this postseason, I just have never seen. And no Knicks fan has seen this before. But what's getting eerie about this run right now is you watch these games and you expect nothing less, which is crazy. Like, the Knicks are in a game in the fourth quarter against the Cavs. Remember, this is a team that, once again, last year, up 14 points, 12 points, whatever it was, with 14 points with 4 minutes left, 11 points with 2 minutes left, and blew a Eastern Conference Finals game. And you watch that game, and I'm watching it while people are watching me because I'm on an actual show, and the Knicks are kind of hovering in that 16 to 10 range for like most of the fourth quarter, and there's no fear that the Cavs are going to mount any kind of comeback. There's no fear that the Knicks won't handle business, that they whatever couple of shots the Cavs may make, that Jalen Brunson won't put ice cold water on whatever run the Cavs are about to go on. And again, you saw a Knicks team take the will out of an opponent, that there was absolute no concern that the Cavs are going to pose any threat to the Knicks. And like I said before the series, I respected this team coming in. This is not a team I thought the Knicks would sweep. This is not a team I thought the Knicks would flat out dominate. I thought the Knicks were the better team. I think they had much more advantageous matchups, which have proved to be true. But it feels like this is a Cavs team that I think they've been a little shell-shocked at how well the Knicks are playing. And they are still reeling from what happened in Game 1, a game that they thought they had in the bag. And I said this last night when I was doing the show with Brian and Dex, but I say it again. It just felt like when I watched Game 2, and I said this on Orange and Blue Bloods, that like for a game that was kind of in the balance for a while, it just kind of felt like in the second half, they were like, man, we shouldn't even be in this game. Like, if we lose this game, it shouldn't have mattered because we should have won Game 1. In theory, this is the game the Knicks should have got after they got their rust back. And it kind of felt like they kind of I don't want to say they quit, but for lack of a better term, I kind of like felt like they rage quit game 2. They're like, this is ridiculous. Why are we even in this fight? Like, we shouldn't be fighting for our lives to try to get this one game. We should have got it already. And they kind of just packed their tenons and we'll just try to get 2 in Cleveland. And in this game, I kind of felt the same way, where it felt like in the second half for a game that was still kind of in the balance, even though, again, as a Knicks fan and a Knicks observer, no real concern that Knicks were going to actually lose this game. Like, they went down, they went up. It's funny, my impetus would say they went down because like they'll be only up by 6 points on the road at halftime is unfamiliar territory for the Knicks. But they went up 6 going into the half after they actually lost the second quarter. And despite what I thought was a pretty bad second quarter, there was no fear that they weren't going to be able to turn it around and figure it out. And there was no third quarter of doom was going to happen with this team. And I think part of that, again, was I think the Cavs looking at this being like, man, like, we played a terrible first quarter, but we played a very good second quarter, and we're still losing. Like, this series should be tied 1-1. If we lost this game, it should be 2-1. Then we have an opportunity to, stave off, like, a 3-1 deficit in the next game. Like, I just think that whenever they have faced adversity, it feels like you can actually see their aura shift back to frustration and disappointment from what happened in Game 1. And that is what I continue to see from that Cavs team on the other side. And the Knicks are locked in a way where if you are not fully engaged and fully invested in winning these games and executing at the highest level, off with your head. That's the reality. That's how well the Knicks are playing right now. That's how dominant they have been. And that's what you saw with this game in Game 3. We'll get to all of it. But again, this is Orange and Blue Bloods, where the Knicks, as we talk about this postseason run, are just 1 win away from going to the NBA Finals. 10-game winning streak, by the way. 10-game winning streak. Insane stuff. So we're going to get to all of it, man. Again, if you enjoy these episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods, first of all, thank you for being on this ride. Getting this show back at a time where the Knicks are playing this way, to actually document history in motion, I don't take it for granted. I don't take you, the listener, or you watching on YouTube for granted, whether it's 1, whether it's 50, whether it's 500, whether it's 10,000. It doesn't matter. Like, this is a special moment for all involved watching this team. And I know you'll say, oh, they haven't won a title. I forget about that. We all know how hard it is to win a title. We all know, and we'll talk later in the show about the challenge that faces them in an NBA championship, because I do think it will be a tall challenge. But this is a franchise that was in the depths of hell and has crawled their way back to elite basketball status. That is what they are. There's no, that's not like Nick hyperbole. That's not talking out of turn. They are an elite basketball team. They're an elite NBA franchise. And to think of where they were, there were a lot of folks who, while I may have pushed back because I'm a Knicks fan and I feel like in theory sports are always cyclical, there are plenty of Knicks fans that thought there was never going to be an opportunity for them to get to this point. So all of this is special. Enjoy the ride while you're here. It does not mean that you're losing sight of the end goal. That's for the players to not worry about the journey, just keep playing, right? For your fans, for people who are doing this content and stuff, enjoy this ride, because this is something that we know that at the stop of a dime, can flip the other way immediately. The Knicks went from in the conference finals in 2000 to 2 or 3 years later missing the playoffs, and will end up being a very long playoff drought. Like, so this is not something I take for granted. So I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with Orange and Blue Blood since it came back. What did we come back in March? Whatever it was, March, April, whenever. I think it was March. You guys have been awesome, and I've appreciated the kind words. I appreciate the people that have reached out to me saying, hey, I heard the episode. I heard what you said about this and that. That's been really cool. So appreciate you guys. Again, if you're enjoying this show, do me a couple favors. Number one, if you can subscribe to the channel on wherever you get your podcast, that'd be great, of course. If you can also hit the auto download feature, that helps me out a ton. Really would appreciate you doing that. And give us a 5-star review if you can. Again, the word of mouth helps. All the engagement helps. That's how we get this podcast out there. That's how we grow this thing. So if you do those 3 things for me, I greatly appreciate it. Of course, these episodes also get posted to our YouTube channel, which is not an Orange Blue Bloods channel. There's not a separate one, at least not yet. Right now, I'm still posting it on the New Generation Media page, which is the YouTube page that is owned by myself, my brothers, Shamari and Kendall, and we do all of our content on there. That's where Orange and Blue Bloods videos live. So if you would listen to the show, you're like, oh, I'd like to watch one episode, you can always head over to the New Generation Media YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. When you watch these videos, make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you all do all those good things that help the show. We would greatly appreciate it. So Knicks right now, commanding lead, up 3-0 in this series after winning Game 3, 121-108. The win streak is now extended to 10 games, which is just not something that you're used to saying about teams that aren't dynasties, that you're on a 10-game winning streak in the playoffs. That's just not a thing that typically happens. And when it has happened, Brian Fonseca had the numbers when I was on the show with him on New York Got Game. I think I want to say most of these teams won titles. I don't want to say it was all. It was not all of them. In fact, at one time, the Warriors and the Cavs had 10-game win streaks in the playoffs. So, of course, someone had to lose. There are a couple of teams that didn't make the finals, but very few didn't. And most of the teams that went on 10-plus game winning streaks ended up winning an NBA championship. So, again, if you want to start to feel optimistic about the Knicks, you have every right to. I thought when it came to the Game 3 win, big shout-out deserved for one, Mikal Bridges. I continue to be super impressed with how he has rebounded from the disaster that was the end of Game 2 in Atlanta and then the entire Game 3 when he scored 0 points. A lot of players, especially with the amount of scrutiny he was facing and facing it in New York City, would have completely melted under that circumstance. Think about some of the guys that have. Think about, and this is not a New York athlete, but think about a guy like Ben Simmons. And I don't mean to throw a shot at Ben Simmons or throw a straight at him in any reason, but the reality is, like, when you have postseason failures of that magnitude in a market that is unforgiving like New York, it will crush some people. And Philadelphia is also one of those markets that's extremely tough on their athletes. Not everyone's built for it. For Mikal Bridges to start the postseason the way he did, which was kind of weird because in that Game 2 where he took that fadeaway jump shot to try to win the game where he probably should have drove, like, he actually had a good game. Like, it wasn't like a huge numbers game, but in terms of like his role and what he does, he still played great defense. Like, he had a good game. It's just he made a bad decision at the end of the game. It was him just trying to make a play. He was trying to help the team win. He just missed the shot. If he makes the shot, nobody's concerned about the shot selection. And, like, for him to go from that, and then, again, clearly that, I keep saying, like, I think that missed shot and everything that came with that decision and all the conversation around it, I think it affected him in Game 3. And to come from what he was in Game 3 to do what he's doing, last night, phenomenal performance once again. 22 points. He continues to be a menace defensively. He had 3 steals in this one. He's not the only one with 3 steals in this game. He was awesome. He was awesome. He was a plus 19 in this game, which was the highest plus minus with the exception of Karl-Anthony Towns, who also I thought did a great job of setting the tone. Both those guys I thought really set tone for this game. I mean, Cavs didn't come out the right energy. Like, if you're in a situation where it's 2-0, you're fighting for your playoff lives, it just feels like that's the kind of game where you come out with maximum desperation. And it felt like the Cavs actually came into that game with the attitude of, all right, it's our turn to get our games now. And I don't know if that maybe was like a vibe from their series against the Pistons, where like they came back from down 0-2 after losing the first 2 games on the road. Said, all right, well, the Pistons got their 2, but we'll get our 2 here. And I don't know if I don't really remember how that Game 3 went with Detroit. So, you know, I watched the series, but I know obviously I'm all Knicks and nothing right now. But it just felt like they were a team that kind of just thought they were kind of owed this game. I'm like, what is this? This defense they started was terrible. And Kenny Atkins had to call an early timeout. They kind of tried to find their legs, but they got shellacked in that first quarter. And so much of it was because of terrible defense. But Bridges, I thought on both ends, really set the tone. He was awesome in this one. Again, Cat, I thought, really set the tone on both ends as well. Came out, was aggressive, got to the free throw line, hit his first 3 immediately, and the Knicks were off and running from there. And despite what I thought was a great tone setting from Cat and Bridges, that ended up being a key storyline for the rest of the game. Because I think that what that allowed was for those guys to be in rhythm, be involved in the game, and by Jalen Brunson being unselfish and allowing those guys to take advantage of the advantages that they had and to be aggressive. Then when second half rolled around and now the Cavs are concerned about, all right, Bridges is getting going, we got to figure out what we're going to do with Cat. Josh Hart made a couple of shots, which was something that concerned them and frustrated them, obviously, in game 2 because they were trying to leave him open. Once all those things have to then become concerns, then you forget, oh, right, the Brunson burner's here. And then Jalen Brunson smartly then said, okay, now's my time to be aggressive. And then, boy, did he start going to work. 21 of his 30 points comes in the second half. He continues to shine. He's a special player. I mean, there's no other way to put it when it comes to talking about Jalen Brunson. His floor game, I thought, was really, really good. I know he did turn the ball over 4 times. So a couple of bad decisions here and there, but I thought in terms of his shot selection, but he took like one really bad 3 in the first quarter. I remember being like, what are you doing? I actually really was annoyed by that shot because I think Cleveland scored immediately on it, or I think it kind of shifted the momentum briefly early in the first quarter. But I thought his shot selection was really sound. He was getting into the paint regularly, and he just torched him. And he's been doing essentially what I said he was going to do. Like I said in the last episode, I'm going to say it again, there were a lot of folks, and I looked at him again, who in my Jalen Brunson's going to torch the Cleveland Cavaliers post. We're putting in bookmarks because I assume they wanted to circle back after whatever they thought was going to happen in this series to once again quote Charles Barkley, take that shit off my page, okay? Because Jalen Brunson has done exactly what I said. They couldn't guard him in game 1 in the fourth quarter. He took them apart. They tried to double team him in game 2. He made the smart passes. He had a career high in assists in the playoffs with 14. Then they try to take him away again in this one to start. Brunson gets everybody involved. They say, okay, you know what? Now we got to take these other guys away. Brunson scores 21 in the fourth quarter. They can't, in the second half, they can't touch this guy. He's the best player in the Eastern Conference. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's a special guy, and the Knicks are very lucky to have this guy leading them through this. He was awesome in a game that the Knicks had to have. And it's kind of speaking on that, too. What I thought was lost, and I kind of mentioned it earlier on the last episode of Orange and Blue Bloods too, because I kind of mentioned on the last episode that I thought the Knicks were going to win this game. And I thought that the sweep was not on the table because I didn't like what I saw from Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell looked way more spry in this game than he did in any of the games so far. I don't know if he took a shot. I don't know if he felt just better. I don't know if he got better treatment because he's at home. I don't know what happened. But I was like, he kind of actually wow. I was like, oh, I haven't seen that explosiveness all series, or at least not since whenever he tweet whatever he tweet, late in the first game. I thought he looked really good. But one of the narratives that were coming into this game in terms of kind of how to expect this series to go once it shifted to Cleveland, despite the Knicks winning the first 2 games, was that, listen, Cleveland has been a great home team, which is 100% true. They were a great home team during the regular season, and they were a really, really, really good home team during this postseason. They're 7-1 coming into that last game. They played on Saturday. But what I kept saying, and what I said on Orange and Blue Bloods on, Friday, whenever I recorded, I was like, has anyone seen what the Knicks have been doing on the road? The Knicks lost 1 game on the road, which was probably their worst performance of the postseason, by 1 point. And they had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win, and they turned the ball over. They didn't get a shot off. They have been a much better home team than a road team, and it sounds weird because they're winning every game, so you're like, okay, what's the difference? Look at the lopsidedness of the road wins compared to the home wins. The home wins, there's a 130 piece that they gave the Philly, but the home wins are your 15 to 20 point wins, or your 12 point wins, or whatever. They won an overtime game. They won a close game against Philly in game 2. Obviously the overtime game, talking about game 1 against Cleveland. The road games, these have been non-competitive since that loss to Atlanta. They are bludgeoning people on the road. So as much as, and this, I wouldn't call this a bludgeoning per se, but as much as the dialogue and the conversation was about Cleveland's going to be much better at home, I'm like, I think the Knicks play much better at home. And I mean on the road, I'm sorry. I think that getting away from a lot of the hoopla that comes with Madison Square Garden and the fans and how excited they are, I think they've really mastered the us against the world, bunkered down mentality. And one thing that I'll mention as well, and it's something that shout out to Brian Lewis, who he was on our show, or not our show, obviously I was on the show as a guest as well, but the show that I was on with Dex and Brian, and he's a beat writer for the Nets for the New York Post, but of course is covering the NBA because he's an NBA beat reporter. He mentioned how when you talk about approaching road games, how hostile really is it if you're looking out in the crowd and there's all these Knicks fans? And it's not really an element that I really considered when it came to like why the Knicks are playing so well on the road. But I know for a fact that it definitely deflates the other team. We saw Tyrese Maxey say that. I want you to hear from Donovan Mitchell, because he also was asked about kind of what he thought about what was not nearly the dominant Knick crowd that we saw take over the Sixers crowd, and I don't think was maybe even quite as prevalent in Atlanta, but there were a ton of fans in Atlanta. But there were also a lot of Knick fans at this game in Cleveland on Saturday, and Donovan Mitchell said, quite frankly, he wasn't surprised.
I mean, I'm from New York. This doesn't shock me. They do it in every arena. It's like Cowboys fans. It's just who they are. I don't think it's a Cleveland thing. It wasn't just us. You look at Philly. Look at that's how Knicks fans are. I was one back in the day, so like, you know what I mean? So that had nothing to do with what we got going. Cleveland's best fans in the world. I stand on that. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't affect us. That doesn't label who Cleveland is. I have nothing but love for the fans in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I don't feel quite as, I don't think this was nearly as embarrassing at all. Not even close to what like Philly did. Like that was a black mark for the city for that to happen. Where for the second time in 3 years, Knicks fans take over your arena. They were in the same situation Philly was in, where they're down 2-0 at home, and maybe don't have faith in this group because they've kind of always come up short in the postseason. And Cavs fans, I think, showed up in a reasonable way, but clearly Knicks fans got in the building. Stephen Bondy from the Post mentioned how there were really loud "Let's Go Knicks" chants when the Knicks came out and they were introduced. When you talk about playing on the road, like you think about hostile environments and difficulties and player safety, right? Like you don't know what a fan's gonna say. There's aspects to playing on the road that are supposed to be difficult for opposing teams, and I do wonder if because the Knicks know their fans travel so well that they don't feel that pressure. Like going to Cleveland, like Cleveland's a great sports town. Cleveland, I think, as an NBA fan base, has been awesome. I can't think of games or series where I felt like fans from other teams took over or they really weren't supporting the team. Like I know they had LeBron, so maybe it's kind of easy. He's the hometown hero, but I don't know. I don't remember when. I don't remember. I was not born, or I was like 2 years old when they were playing in the playoffs. But like I don't remember the Bulls Cavs series being like a cakewalk for Michael Jordan to go into Cleveland because there were all these Bulls fans. Like I don't remember that ever being a storyline. So it's an element that I was wondering they just take now where they're like, listen, like we're going on the road, but we're gonna have a lot of our people there, so we know it's not gonna be nearly as bad as it would be for any other team having to play in Cleveland with their season on the line. And one little side note, a quick aside, I don't spend too much time on it, but before the game, the Cavs official social media account, and this was maybe like an hour or 2 hours for the game. I don't know why they posted it so close to game time, because I'm like, I don't know how many people, like if you're driving and stuff, you're not on your social media. Maybe if you're taking, I don't know what, I've never been to Cleveland, so I don't know if there's like a big effort for like mass transit and some trains. I don't know anything. I know nothing about Cleveland. So besides that, they had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Cavs and Browns play there and the Guardians. But they put out this social media post before the game where it was, here are the rules for any Cavs fan that shows up tonight. And it was like, make sure you wear your playoff shirt. When the opposing team's on the free throw line, make sure you boo and make as much noise as possible. I was like, I'm sorry, like, are Cavs fans, is Cleveland not familiar with how sports fandom works? That you're supposed to boo the opponent when they're shooting free throws? Or that I know Knicks fans don't do it, but that's a culture thing. Like, yeah, they give you a playoff t-shirt, you all wear it, so you're all wearing the same color, so you're all united with the team. Like, they don't know these things? I'm like, of course they do. I thought it was extremely patronizing to the Cavs fans for them to post that. I'm trying to pull up the actual list so I can tell you guys this list really quickly. I was stunned. I was like, what is this? Like, Cleveland is like that famous, I should have got the famous quote from the former Cleveland. Oh, actually, no, this is a Cincinnati coach. Never mind. That wouldn't work. But no, I was like, I'm thinking about the old coach from the Bengals who said, you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati. I actually thought I had it backwards. That's why I thought the quote would work. But no, like, here's the rules. that they posted. It's like, new round, new rules. I'm like, new rules? What? You guys have been playing playoff games for 2 rounds. Now you need the fans to be even more engaged than normal. Number 1, wear the damn shirt. If you're in the building, you're in uniform. Playoff tee from tip to final buzzer. Number 2, let them know. No warm welcome in our house. From the first opposing intro, we drowned them out with "Let's Go Cavs." That did not happen. The Knicks fans took over that, apparently. We all defend the land. Number 3. When the opponent has the ball, you know the call. Scream defense. Again, what is this? This sounds like something you would give to like a junior high school before like a big high school, like junior high school basketball game or like a city championship or something. Like for maybe kids who like aren't familiar with like supporting a teams because maybe they're just kind of finally getting into school spirit and into like what it means to be rallied behind, you know, one collective. Like, this is not something you give to an NBA fan base or a professional fan base. Not Cleveland. Cleveland's a fine sports city. I would have. I mean, if I was a Cleveland fan, I would have been pissed off by this. There were more rules. Number 4, make them miss during free throws. Do everything you can to distract them. I'm like, what? They don't know that already? Number 5, the 4th, we close together. Nobody sits or leaves or lets up. We wave rally towels, bring the energy until the final buzzer. And again, that did not happen because the players on the floor for the Cavs did not give them anything to cheer for. But a how-to list to your fan base prior to a playoff game seems completely absurd. But what this did tell me was how much Knicks fans are in the heads of opposing teams, even at home. And that's going to be an advantage that they're going to enjoy for however long this series goes. It's probably going to be one more day. Dare I say, or should I expect a Knicks contingent in Oklahoma City and San Antonio? I mean, that seems very unlikely given like what I know those fan bases to be. But I don't know. They flew to Cleveland. So they willing to fly to Cleveland. Why wouldn't, in theory, they fly to... You know, I know it is if Cleveland's actually a surprisingly very short flight. I think it's literally like an hour and a half. But if you flew to Cleveland, why wouldn't you fly to Texas or Oklahoma? You know, if you're that committed to the cause. So I don't know. I thought that was strange. But the Knicks, kind of how they started, took the crowd out of it. The Knicks crowd certainly made their presence felt in the fourth quarter when the Cavs just seemed to give up. So this was not a good look for the Cavs at all. We'll get to more of them in a second. I do also want to mention a couple other guys that we got to talk about in this game. Number 1, OG Anunoby. He really seems to be coming into his own. He kind of becomes an unsung hero in this game a little bit because there was Brunson, there was Bridges, there was a start from Cat, and there was Shamet, who we'll get to in a second. But OG, 21 points, 3 for 4 from 3. He looks like the two-way demon that was becoming a star of the postseason before he injured his hamstring. First game, looked like he didn't want to tear his hamstring. Actually, was a little concerned how healthy he was. Though the fourth quarter overtime kind of showed you, okay, I think he's good. He just got to trust his hamstring. Second game, started to push it a little bit more. Started to be a little more aggressive. Started to look a little more like the old OG. So, okay, good. This game, again, dominant to start the game. Awesome game for all quarters he played. He was great. 3-point shot looks better because he definitely, his timing was definitely off with the shot. Like even when like they were coming on that comeback, he had a couple of wide open shots and he just was throwing air balls and bricking them. It looked ugly compared to how well he was shooting when he couldn't miss against Atlanta and Philly. So he shot the ball really well. That's a great sign for the Knicks. He is going to be, I think, the key to the Knicks winning an NBA championship. Like I think for as great as Bridges is playing, we know what Brunson is. We know what Cat being able to. By the way, we want to talk about Cat, and I mentioned how good he was, even if the points weren't a large number. He had 13 points, 7 assists, and no turnovers. I mean, and this was without them running this typical flex actions and posting up Cat at the pinch post or in the high post or at the top of the key. This was just him organically just playing smart basketball. He had 4 fouls, but they were like he never got himself in serious foul trouble at any point. Like, he was awesome in this game as well. But I think the key for the Knicks is, I think what raises their ceiling to potentially winning a championship is OG Anunoby being the third All-Star on this team. And Bridges is playing like an All-Star too, but that's like gravy. Like, him playing like that is all right. Well, now there's nothing they can't do. But the prerequisite for the Knicks to have any shot against the Spurs and against the Thunder is for OG Anunoby to be playing like this. Not the guy you saw in the first 2 games who was kind of feeling his way through it. The guy that was dominant in this one, and also the guy that was dominant in the first two series against Atlanta and against Philly. He was phenomenal in this one, and got to give him a big, big, big shout out to the Landry Shamet hive. I'm a card-carrying member, and Landry Shamet, 14 points, 12 in the fourth quarter. The guy is becoming a fourth quarter closer. The huge shots he hit in game one, we saw what he did to Philly. The guy's awesome, and I feel like I've been defending Landry Shamet's existence on this team pretty much since he joined, and I couldn't understand why the other coach wouldn't play him more, but the shot making is there. He seems like he's found his shot back, which is great. Defense on Donovan Mitchell continues to be pesky and stingy and tough. He's been a godsend this postseason. And I want to give credit to Mike Brown, too, because Mike Brown, he could have buried him. You remember, he kind of like last postseason where Tibbs did bury him. Bad start to start this postseason. He didn't look ready. Those first two games against Atlanta, he was terrible. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with Landry Shamet. Like he's got, we went through this before last year. He was in the rotation. He worked his way back in the rotation. Tibbs wanted to play him. And the first sign of danger, Tibbs said, you're banished, and just basically buried him for the rest of the postseason until break glass case, if necessary or under emergency. We're down 2-0 and we need something, so throw Shamet out there in a random game 3, and lo and behold, he actually played pretty well. I credit Mike Brown for not doing that. He was playing poorly. He definitely sat him. He said, you're gonna have to sit down for a little bit. We can't afford this. But he was he was working to get him back into rotation. The Atlanta series, they got some blowouts, so he was able to get him out there and get him some reps and get him some time out there. And then he started playing more in Philly. Then OG gets hurt, so now he's in the rotation, really in the rotation. And Shamet, he has rewarded them. He to get this guy at basically a minimum salary. There are other teams. He was the best. I mean, Deuce was awesome too in that series, but you could argue he was one of the best bench pieces in the last series for either team, and you could argue he's been the best bench piece in this series so far. So, and this is a guy making a minimum salary. So once again, all the credit to Leon Rose and fate, because the truth of the matter is, if Malcolm Brogdon doesn't retire, there is a chance that he's not on this team. Maybe they could have traded Dadier or traded Kolek. That was something that was also being discussed at the time. But the word was that Brogdon was probably going to get the edge over Shamet. We know how much Mike Brown talked about how much he believed in Shamet. So that makes me wonder if maybe they would have pulled the trigger on a trade somewhere else. But the reality is, there's a chance he might not have been on the team. So fate also, as we now know, has been on the side of the Knicks for a lot of the season. And Shamet being on this team, he really helped Jalen Brunson close that fourth quarter. He had some massive shots that really put the game out of reach. So Knicks now, again, one win away from the NBA Finals, and that is important. It's important because, obviously, they're one win away from the NBA Finals. But it's also important because they have officially crossed the Tibbs threshold. When they made the decision to fire Tom Thibodeau, the entire discourse about what the team's expectations were coming into next season, regardless of who the coach was if you do not get closer than 2 wins away from getting to the NBA Finals next season, it is a failure. All of the criticism about the decision to fire Tom Thibodeau stemmed from the concept that how do you fire a coach that had you just 2 wins away from the NBA Finals? Well, now you cannot talk about that as a talking point anymore because the Knicks have crossed the Tibbs threshold. That was the furthest Tibbs had gotten to this team. He got this team last season 2 wins away from getting to the NBA Finals before they fell short to the Indiana Pacers. Mike Brown has now put the team in position where they are just 1 game away from getting to the NBA Finals, and they're up 3-0. They never led in the Indiana series. They were playing from behind the entire series. So that is significant because with the expectations that came from this season, with a lot of the agendas that were pushed and about what this team had to do in order for this season to be success, a lot of it stemmed from you can't label anything as a success if you don't do better than how you did under Tom Thibodeau. Well, now the Knicks have done that. Now, of course, if they were somehow lose from up 0-3, 3-0 rather, I don't know what that makes for that conversation. Mike Brown would have technically still crossed that threshold, but that would be a stunning development. I don't think the Knicks are in any danger of that, but that is, I guess, in theory out there until the final whistle blows in whatever the final game of the series is. But they have officially crossed the tip threshold, which means like that whole narrative is dead. And we really won't have any reason to bring up the Knicks' decision about moving off from Tom Thibodeau to move to Mike Brown in any negative capacity again. It should only be brought up as maybe one of the smartest, boldest moves this franchise has ever made. That's the truth of the matter. Because a lot of franchises, with where they were and how close that they got, regardless of how painful it was, a lot of franchises would have been content with looking at last season and saying, okay, yes, we absolutely threw away the conference finals in game 1, but we made the conference finals, we won a couple games, we had this team in its first year, and we showed that we could beat the Celtics, and we beat them in a dramatic fashion with those great come-from-behind victories. A lot of franchises may have looked at that and said, that's fine, let's just keep building on that, and let's not actually critically think about what are our shortcomings and how we fix that. That's not what the Knicks did. The Knicks took that success in context, but then also were very wide-eyed in what they were missing out of their head coach, what they were missing as an organization, and how they needed to get to that next level. They didn't look at this as simply thinking, well, because we didn't make it this past year, next year is going to be our turn. Just like I mentioned how the Cavs kind of felt like they came into game 3 with like, well, next year, this game is our turn to win because they won the first 2 games at home. So we just got to win the first 2 games at home without doing any of the actual grunt work needed to actually win this game. They didn't play hard. They didn't impose themselves physically. They got pushed around. Like, you got to actually make your own luck when it comes to basketball. You got to actually do the things that's necessary to win. It's not just going to happen for you. It's the same thing with a lot of organizations, how they may have treated the coaching situation with the Knicks last year. They could have said, well, okay, Halliburton got hurt and Tatum's hurt, and like we'll have another year together. Like, we'll just run it back. Like, it's our turn next year. We don't got to change anything. That's not what the Knicks did. The Knicks said, regardless of the success we had, the process is flawed, and the process is not going to change unless we change. It's like that famous Biggie quote: "Before we could change the world, we got to change ourselves." That is what the Knicks did when it came to making a very difficult decision to fire a very successful NBA head coach. But guess what? Put respect on their damn name. They made the right decision. Tom Thibodeau, and I hope that he gets to coach again in the NBA. I know he's up for other jobs, and I wish no ill will of him. But based on what the Knicks are trying to accomplish, which is to win an NBA championship, he did not put them in the best position to do so. I know that as a fact now, because I'm watching a team that right now looks like a playoff juggernaut. I've never seen a Tom Thibodeau basketball team ever look like this. Ever. Not in Chicago, not in Minnesota, never. I've seen Mike Brown teams get to the NBA Finals. This is actually not unforeseen territory for him. I've seen him be an assistant coach on the Warriors, so I've seen him around greatness. So this is not like, oh, I've never done this before. He actually has. In fact, he's done it in that building, like winning big games in Cleveland. That's what he did when he was coaching LeBron James way back in the day. So the Knicks and Leon Rose, and put respect on his name, whether you like him or not, James Dolan, they were right and you were wrong. The Knicks are much better off with this head coach because he has been able to show that when things are going poorly, he can make adjustments, that he can be adaptable, and that he will listen to other people. That it is not a my way or the highway approach to this season. I crushed Mike Brown for how this playoff started. I hated the rotation. I thought maybe they should have changed the starting lineup. And I thought the process of how they were playing offensively in the first 3 games against Atlanta was stupid. And I said that on this show. A less a coach that was more prideful, that was more my way or the highway, or a coach that felt like, you know what, like, I don't care what people are saying, I know the game, I watched the game 2 or 3 times, so I know more than you, may have said, well, to hell with that, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep going with what got us here. Mike Brown realized at this time that what got the Knicks here was not going to be good enough. Just like the Knicks knew when they fired Tom Thibodeau last June that what got them there was no longer going to be good enough. So this new offense that you love from the New York Knicks, credit that to Mike Brown. That's a change that would not have happened under Tom Thibodeau. This defense and how they're playing, credit that staff. I want you to hear this soundbite from Mike Brown because, you know, first he talks about the pathway to getting here because, you know, they've been killing teams, obviously. And it has led folks to look at the Knicks and say, okay, they're playing great, but how difficult has been the competition? Mike Brown wants you to know that it is very hard what the Knicks are doing right now.
When you look at the path that you guys have had, do you feel like it's did you expect it to be, I don't want to characterize it as easy because I know it's not easy, but does it feel like it's kind of been, you know, a little bit on the easier end?
No, not at all. This is hard. We're playing good teams. I've said this before. We're playing a team right now that has 4 NBA All-Stars and 2 of the best shooters in the league on top of those 4 NBA All-Stars, and they have a fantastic coach in Kenny Atkinson. There's nothing easy about this.
Yeah, don't take this for granted. Everyone's playoff darling coming into this season was the Boston Celtics. They lost to the Sixers. And it became, Embiid and Maxey and Edgecombe, oh man, like we really didn't see this coming. This team is dangerous. Knicks took them apart. Everyone's regular season darling, the Detroit Pistons, everyone's like, the Knicks, you better get ready for Detroit. You don't want to deal with Detroit. Cleveland beats Detroit. Donovan Mitchell has a great Game 7. Harden looks rejuvenated and all these conversations. Oh man, well the Cavs, maybe this is their time now. Knicks have taken the Cavs apart. It was not. It clearly was not easy because the teams that everybody loved, the Celtics and the Pistons, couldn't do it. So when we talk about what Mike Brown and this team has done, it's not easy. And we know how hard it is because we've seen this Knicks team get close in terms of trying to crack through and become NBA championship worthy, and we know how hard it is. You don't just do this beating teams by 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 points and it's just easy. In the playoffs. No, there's a reason why other teams don't do this. It's not luck. But this coach deserves his damn respect, man. And I wanted to play this soundbite because he continued about how, you know, his players deserve a lot of credit, but it's not just the players that he wants to give the respect to for this phenomenal run they're on right now.
I got to give our guys credit, though. Our guys are trying to stay locked in and focus on the details, and I got to give my staff credit. My staff has been fantastic. Chris Gent, Rick Brunson, Brendan O'Connor, Darren Erman, TJ Saint, Ricky Foy, all those guys. They've been freaking awesome.
I want to highlight that soundbite and that end of that because a lot of folks, there were a lot of things that were under scrutiny for how the Knicks handled their coaching search last year. And one of the big ones was about how not only that by hiring Mike Brown and taking it as long as they did, they, you know, wasted time. They're all the good candidates they wanted were at other jobs like Billy Donovan and Jason Kidd. Thank God those guys weren't the Knicks head coach. The other thing too is like once they hired Mike Brown, they're all right. Well, the problem is you waited so long to fire Tibbs, or you were so deep into the process. Most teams don't fire their head coach after losing in the conference finals. The amount of candidates that are available on other staffs to become assistants, there are not many guys out there. Like basically, you're getting guys on the street. Like, you know, you got to probably retain some of Tibbs' guys, which is what he did with Rick Brunson, who he mentioned. He did with Mo Cheeks. There are a couple other guys on the staff that were with Tom Thibodeau. But also, like, when it comes to the rest of the staff, like, yeah, you got to get guys on the street or guys that aren't working somewhere or guys that have contracts up or guys that are on teams that, like, they are like, yeah, sure, go ahead. You can hire him. We don't care. The Knicks actually, there were several people that were offered jobs. Some of the more high-end assistant coaches, guys who were considered, like, potential future NBA head coaches that were offered jobs to come on in this staff, and they rejected because either they were already on the road with the team that they're on, or the other team wouldn't allow them to leave because it was a lateral move. And yet, look at what you saw with this staff. Again, you like how the way the Knicks play defense right now, how on a string they are, their process, how they're actually executing. And some of this is the players, like my friend Dexter Henry says, players have agency, of course. But you want to talk about the execution and how pristine it is? Brendan O'Connor is the defensive coordinator of this team. That's a Mike Brown hire. You love how the Knicks changed their offense pretty much from scratch midway through the playoffs, or early in through the playoffs, midway through a series. And now they have an offense that has been basically unstoppable except for 3 quarters against Cleveland in game 1. Well, Chris Gent is the team's offensive coordinator. These are guys that were seen as, oh, these are the best guys Knicks can get. Where are the big name guys? Those guys are doing their job, just like Mike Brown is doing their job. All those guys deserve a ton of credit. But it just goes back to this whole conversation that happened with Tom Thibodeau and his firing, and how so much of it was not actually about basketball. It was about things that had nothing to do with basketball. It was about, well, Tom Thibodeau deserves something more because he helped lift the team out of poverty, which I will always be thankful for. I will always be grateful for. Tom Thibodeau was great at that. And there's a large part of me that feels like Tom Thibodeau was great for when he was hired by the Knicks. And if Mike Brown was hired by the Knicks the time that Tom Thibodeau took over, that he wouldn't still be here. I think he would have been fired by now. We've seen Mike Brown trying to take over bad teams. It doesn't work out long term. So, like Tom Thibodeau taking over bad teams, we see what he does. He builds them into the winners. They get the winning habits. They know how to prepare. They know how to establish a different level of work ethic. Like, there are things about him that make him a very good coach. But it was clear that for where the Knicks are right now, they needed a guy who was more collaborative, a guy who was willing to be more flexible, a guy who was willing to listen more to his players. Karl-Anthony Towns went to Mike Brown and said, like, hey, why don't you use me more as a hub offensively? That way we can open things up for these other guys as opposed to having Jalen Brunson just pound the ball into oblivion. Last year when Mikal Bridges had to go to the media to finally say, hey, like, Tom Thibodeau's playing us too much. He should play Landry Shamet more. Tibbs basically was like, I'm the coach. I'm not listening to you. That, like, we know the difference between these two men. And again, it's not, maybe for another team, maybe for another set of guys, maybe Tibbs' approach is a winning formula. It just wasn't a winning formula for the Knicks anymore. And a lot of the loudest critics, some have paid their respect to Mike Brown, but a lot of the loudest critics who think we forgot are very quiet right now when it comes to the job Mike Brown has done and how the Knicks are playing. And whenever the Knicks have faced a rough patch or looked like they were struggling, they were very loud, start talking about, well, Tom Thibodeau wasn't happening with him, or maybe they should have kept it. They're very quiet now. Give Mike Brown his respect for what they've done so far. The job's not finished. There's no reason to throw parades or celebrate or anything like that. But, like, this has been an awesome coaching job. And I'm just impressed because, as you guys heard, because I'm fair. I crushed him after those first 3 games. I said he was getting badly outcoached by Quinn Snyder because he was. But again, do you just go with the same game plan, don't make any adjustments, just keep pushing forward and don't do anything? Or do you actually adjust? He showed he can adjust. He listened to his staff. He listened to his players. And now the Knicks are playing at a completely different level. All the credit to Mike Brown. What a run he's on right now. In terms of other aspects of this game before we get to game 4, it would be nice if the bench outside of Shamet played a little better. Deuce hasn't quite made shots. And besides that game in Philly in game 4 where he came out and it was like Steph Curry, he hasn't really shot the ball that great. So it would be nice to see him start hitting some shots more consistently. His defense has been awesome. His defense has been really good. Most of the guys are finding ways to, even if they're not playing great, make some kind of impact because that's just they're locked in a special way. But I thought Alvarado wasn't great in this one. I don't think he's been great in this series. Shout out to Mr. Robinson. I know he posted on social media that he deleted a lot of his social media. He also changed his phone number. He said he was something happened in his life that is very challenging for him, and he's trying to deal with it mentally while still trying to be focused on the next journey. So, first of all the best wishes to Mr. Robinson. I hope everything is good, and mental health is very important, to quote Brian Fonseca, who said it a bunch of times yesterday, and it was very important to remind people May is Mental Health Month, so I'm hoping Mitchell Robinson, whatever he's going through, he posted his mental health has been in a rough patch right now. I hope he's able to figure it out. He has not played great. He looks like a guy that may be distracted or something. There's plays yesterday where I just felt like it didn't feel like the right bitch. Like, I forgot it was Jordan Tyson. Somebody like drove to the basket and play where Mitch, who he's gotten so much better at not fouling people, puts his arms up, probably blocks a shot, or at the very least makes it a hard contest. He's swiping down while he's jumped, so it's an obvious foul. Like, there are some plays that I was just like, what plan is he on? But again, we know he's dealing with something. So I'm again hoping that he can forget about even basketball. I'm just hoping whatever's happening off the court is all good with him. And the last thing, man, for the Cavs, we buried them a ton on this show, but this was an unserious performance. I mean, what a pathetic performance this was. Knicks came out again. Your season's on the line. You can't get out 0-3, and you let the Knicks punch you in the mouth. Already strike one in terms of this performance, starting behind the 8 ball. Couldn't keep Brunson out of the paint. Strike two. If you let Brunson get into the paint the way he did in the second half, you're cooked. The fast break points. Knicks had 17 fast break points to the Cavs 4. At one point, this was I think it was a 17-0 run at this point, or maybe 15-0 run. I forgot where it was. At one point, the Knicks were so up on them in fast break points, and the Cavs had 0 through deep into the fourth quarter. Which was crazy because the Knicks had all these turnovers. That's the one aspect of this, outside of I think some poor the guys on the bench that aren't really playing that great. The only aspect of this game that also was a little bit of a frustrating thing was they had some unnecessary and sloppy turnovers. How do you have through a team that has 12 turnovers through 3 quarters? How do you have 0 fast break points? That's unacceptable. That tells me that you're not playing with any sense of urgency to actually take advantage of getting easy baskets by their turnovers. It seems like that tells me they're a team that's playing through the motions. It was just pitiful. And then that last play, the last time out Kenny Atkinson called in this game, we're down 14, and the game is mostly out of reach, but this is a team that we saw blow a 11-point game with less than 2 minutes left against Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're up down 14 with 2 minutes left, and Jalen Brunson just drills the ball off the court. It would look like it was Curly Neal without any of the showboating or moves or anything, dribbling through the Washington Generals as a Harlem Globetrotter. He just, like it was traffic cone, just dribbled around this guy, dribbled around that guy. Allen standing there, dribbles right around him, and just lays it up. Nobody stops the ball. There were so many instances where the Knicks are just taking the ball from underneath the basket and just driving. Nobody stopping the ball. Like, I'm like, this is grade school basketball stuff, man. Like, Dennis Schroeder, what's the name's coming out in full speed. Brunson gets one crossover. He's 2 feet in the paint. He gets beat clean. James Harden getting beat clean with guys coming again full speed at him. Like this is an unserious team, unserious performance. Again, for a city that deserves better, they didn't give the right effort for their group, for their team. It was sad. I mean, it was happy for me, but in terms of just basketball, that was a team quitting, and that brings me to what happened today, which is funny. Real quickly, I don't know if I actually talked about it on this show or on... Actually, I talked about it on 40 Days and Counting. Shout out to 40 Days and Counting, my other show. But Draymond Green, who's, he is what he is. I think this was after the Knicks beat Philly, or maybe that series was almost over or whatever, and they were kind of talking about, how good Knicks are playing. And Draymond's been this, Knicks hater for some reason. That's just the character. Well, it's not for some reason. It's for engagement, to be clear. But he's made this part of his agenda, part of his character, and he likes to needle Knicks fans and needle the Knicks. And when he plays them, he puts on an even more villainous persona than he normally does. During the conversation about the Knicks and how they're playing, Draymond Green mentioned how, one of the biggest issues Knicks have is their fans. The fans are actually the issue. Because if you remember last year, when the Knicks were playing well, they were throwing parades, and that was why the team didn't show up the way they were supposed to, because they already got their parades and their coronation. That's why they, quote-unquote, quit in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks lost in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They choked a game away, for sure, in Game 1. Again, quit. They were down 20 points, down 2-0 in the series, and came back and won on the road. They were down 3-1 going back to New York and found a way to push it to Game 6 to go back to Indiana, to get back on the plane and continue the series. They lost Game 6. It wasn't a blowout. They were in the game. They just lost. They got outplayed. They got outplayed by a better team. Quit? There was no quit in the team. They just lost. They didn't show up. They didn't have the right stuff, whether it was fatigue, whether it was skill, whatever. They just got outplayed. But Draymond's always got to put extra sauce on it because he wants to needle the Knicks. So anyway, long story short, that was a team that quit last night. The Knicks, at no point during their postseason runs, and any of them during Tom Thibodeau's run, had they looked like that. What you saw on the court for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where Jalen Brunson, again, is dribbling around them like traffic cones and laying the ball up like this is a 25% drill where you're at 5-star basketball camp and you're showing the campers what the drill is you're doing. Like, that's the speed Jalen Brunson was going at. I don't even know if it was 25%. It looked like, someone said on my social media today, they said it looked like an all-star game. 100% true. That's a team that quit. And when I posted about this clip, because I thought it was insane, I'm like, this is ridiculous. First of all, the Cavs, I guess they were Cavs fans, or I don't know who they were. Some people were like, oh, the game was out of reach. I'm like, this team literally lost a game like this with the score being similar, with the same amount of time. Don't give me the game is over. Also, have some damn pride. These are guys that will flagrant foul you or want to fight you if you put up a dunk after the game was already over and you score. Don't give me that, oh, this game was already out of reach, it didn't matter. No, bull. That was a terrible effort. And it was indicative of what is the character of that team. It is. I wanted to make it known how ridiculous it was and to illustrate how different it is from what we've seen from the Knicks. And I said, this is what it actually looks like when someone quits in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I tagged Draymond Green. I wanted him to know, because remember, he was the guy that was talking about how, oh, your team quit last time in the Eastern Conference Finals. No, they didn't do this. This is quitting. This is no mas. We don't want to do this anymore. And sure enough, the mention I got this morning was stunning. I tagged him, but I don't Draymond Green, he'll get after some people, but he doesn't typically go after everybody or comment on everybody. But sure enough, Draymond Green showed up in my mentions. I don't know if he saw my clips about him talking about how, he got a battery pack in his back because he thinks he's Steph Curry. I hope not. Well, if he did, I don't care. Actually, no, I take that back. I hope he did see it. Because maybe he would stop being Draymond Green. But clearly he did it because he actually kind of co-signed what I said. His reply was, I'm trying to find it, but I have so many mentions today. I'm not trying to brag or anything. It's just the reality. I'm literally scrolling through my mentions, trying to find the one that I want. But nonetheless, Draymond Green said something along the lines of, that's what it feels like when you take, the heart out of another team. Which, facts. That is what it feels like. I'm surprised of all people it was him. Here it was. Finally found it. No better feeling than snatching their hearts was Draymond Green's response to your boy. Which has 100,000 views, by the way. 1,000 likes. And I ended up posting the Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin handshake meme, being like, this is me and Draymond Green actually agreeing on a Knicks commentary at some point in time. Because everything he says about the Knicks, I think he's 1,000% off base most of the time. But that is what it means for someone to quit, is what you saw. And what Draymond Green said was true. Again, words you won't hear me say often. The Knicks snatched their heart. That's the reality. The Cavs, they felt like they played, I guess, in their minds, a game that was worthy of being able to compete. It's not championship level. And the Knicks are playing at a championship level, which is why the Knicks are up 3-0 and the Cavs are looking at potentially getting swept in Game 4. So that is what we're looking at right now. Cavs in a position to potentially get swept. Knicks in a position to go to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999 if they indeed win on Monday. They will have multiple cracks at this, though. They don't have to win on Monday to clinch, of course. They can lose and still go back to New York and win. They can lose that game, go back to Cleveland and win, and let's hope it doesn't get anything crazy like this. But in theory, they will also then have a Game 7 if they have to win that. Knicks completely in the driver's seat. This feels like the series is over. I didn't watch that team that played on the court. nor when I think about just the disposition of the Cavs and the personalities on that team, they don't strike me as a not in our house kind of team or a not in our house kind of players. There are some players that, regardless of circumstance, regardless of the situation, they're going to go down guns blazing, swinging, kicking and screaming. They're not going to allow you to just waltz in your house and just send you to Cancun. They don't strike me as a not in our house team. They strike me as a 1-2-3 Cancun team. And the Knicks seem to be taking like a sick joy out of going into other teams' houses and sending them into oblivion. Think about how they closed Atlanta. Think about how they closed Philly. There is no let your foot off the gas gene with this team in closeout situations on the road. It does not exist. So I don't feel good for the Cavs. I feel great for the Knicks that they will be able to complete this sweep and move on. But based on who the Knicks have been and based on who the Cavs have been, it would be a shock, I think, if the Cavs won this game. It would be a shock. I had Knicks in 6. This is not what I predicted. I had the Knicks winning in 6. And I was leaning on 5. I was like, but you know what? I want to give respect to the opponent. I clearly gave them too much. They're not going to win this series. They're not going to win 2 games. That's for damn sure. And it doesn't look like they're going to win a game. That is what it looks like for me. When it comes to adjustments, it doesn't, from the coach, it doesn't sound like there's any. Here's Kenny Atkinson today, as we record this on Sunday, when asked about kind of how he views this series as they sit down 0-3, but I guess according to him, he's not worried about what the actual series standing says. He's worried about something else.
Analytically, I think we've won the I said 3 out of 3. We're 2 out of 3 in the expected. I don't know if you guys follow that. It's an expected score. And we won 2 out of 3. And I know you're looking confused, but I'm not. There is really, if you believe in process and all that, like, man, take that later.
What? I know there's some basketball sound in the background because they were practicing. Kenny Atkinson saying, analytically, based on shot quality, the Cavs have actually won 2 out of these 3 games. So for those who are hearing this and thinking I have 3 heads, or watching this thinking I have 3 heads, just like the guy that was looking at Kenny Atkinson like he had 3 heads. Kenny Atkinson, I know you're looking at me funny, but let me explain. There are things in terms of like analytics with how all teams, NBA and college, and there's actually people who do this literally on X. You can find people who actually chart shot quality and determine based on the likelihood X player would make this shot on an average day, will give you what the outcome should have been for the game. Which sounds about as nerdy as it is. It's like, what are you talking about? There's a game that was played. I can just watch and see what happened. But analytics is a big part of the NBA now and a big part of basketball, and there are teams who will look at this to inform their process for how they're playing. And if they feel like their shot quality is high, and again, a lot of places will go as far as to actually give points to what should have happened on this play. They're looking at it and saying, based on the shot quality of how we typically shoot and how they particularly shoot, we actually would have won these games on an average day. That's their leader. That's what your team is down 0-3, and instead of, and I'm not saying he's got to give up this game plan, but that almost feels like a defense of the game plan. That almost feels like a defense of our process is good. We got to just keep doing what we are doing. And to be honest, I'm hearing too much of that from that side. Like Donovan Mitchell was like, we're just not making shots. If we want to win, we start to making shots. Okay, yeah, we all know that. Like I don't think that's not a rocket science. You got to make shots. What about letting Jalen Brunson walk all over the court? What about no fast break points? Like, there are so many other aspects of basketball beyond just shot making that can impact the game. And because of, unfortunately, analytics, sometimes it becomes way too much of the story. So much so that you have a head coach that's down 0-3 telling his local press that, well, at least analytically we're up 2-1, which is something no one's ever heard. What are you talking about? I said this on X. I'll say it here. It would not surprise me at all if we're watching a second year in a row where the runner-up of the Eastern Conference fires their head coach. I'm not wishing that on Kenny Atkinson at all. I'm not wishing people lose their jobs or anything like that. This series has been brutal for him. Down 0-3, epic collapse in game one where not only was it in-game strategy, but also like in-game management in the question. Whether it was the management of not calling your timeouts or allowing James Harden to be on an island and not changing the matchup, sending a double, doing anything of normal. He sent a double, was way late, and it was really soft doubles. Like, he didn't do anything. He watched his team collapse and really gave them no answers. He helped them at zero, gave them zero help. And now you're down, team's down 0-3. You watch your team let Jalen Brunson use you like a 5-star basketball camp a dribbling station drill. And you call timeout. You don't take anybody else off the floor. You just let those guys go back there on the floor. Everybody on that starting lineup, and then Max Strus was the fifth guy out there. He's not a typical starter. They all should have had their asses sent right on the bench. You're down in the series. The game was probably over. That game was certainly over after that play. And maybe it seems like it's, showing the sign. Like, I don't know. Maybe someone could make the case that it's like a look at me Larry kind of thing. BS. Like, that kind of effort shouldn't be accepted for a team that has set the standard of trying to compete for a championship. That wasn't championship effort. That wasn't championship character. That wasn't championship heart. And the answer to that was to let those guys go back out there and finish that game. The answer to being down 0-3 in a series where you blew a game one in part because of your lack of adjustments is, well, at least analytically we're up 2-1. Mind-boggling stuff from Kenny Atkinson. Absolutely mind-boggling. So, does this sound like a team that's going to fight back and against all odds find a way to extend this series? That doesn't sound like it to me. A guy who thinks that everything is fine because analytically they're up 2-1. And he's not worried about their process at all. I don't know. It does not look good on that side. But on the Knicks side, again, blue and orange skies, Brady. Blue and orange skies.
The vibes are immaculate.
Vibes are indeed immaculate, Mr. Jalen Brunson. So, game 4 will be Monday, 8 p.m. in Cleveland. We will have another episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. I don't know if it'll be after the game or in the morning, but it'll be the next day. I'm around, so it's not gonna be like last week where I kind of was in a weird spot or whatever. We'll have an episode out. It won't be like last night where I was out, so I couldn't do one this morning because I had to sleep in. And I have a late night tonight because I'm about to go on the fan. For those who won't care, by the time you listen to this, I probably would have already done my show on the fan. But nonetheless, that's why this podcast is also getting out a little late. So, excited for Game 4. Real quickly, I know this has been a little bit of a longer episode. Kind of deserves it. Knicks are one win away from the finals. A couple little housekeeping notes. We got to give a big congrats to two guys on the Knicks. One being a Jalen Brunson and an OG Anunoby. Both guys were honored this weekend. Jalen Brunson named All-NBA second team. OG Anunoby named All-NBA defensive second team. Great accomplishment. Both guys deserving of being recognized by the All-NBA teams. Knicks, though, not happy with OG Anunoby not getting first team. And this was Mike Brown, who ended his media availability earlier today, as I record this on Sunday. I wanted to make it known that he's not happy with how the voting turned out for OG.
Freaking OG got robbed. He should have been first team all defense. First team all defense. The versatility that it brings to this team, we're a top 5 defensive team. Top 5 defensive team. Okay? The versatility that he brings, and everybody always says, oh, you got Cat, you got Jalen, blah, blah, blah. The versatility that guy brings to this team is off the charts. And I hope the voters get it right next time around. I'm happy he's second team. He deserves something, but it was wrong.
And I agree with him. People will going back and forth on, well, who do you take off? That's always the conversation. I've made it clear the guy I'm taking off is Chet Holmgren. And I love Chet Holmgren. I'm a Gonzaga fan, for those who don't know. I'm Gonzaga basketball for college basketball. So I watch Chet Holmgren, love Chet Holmgren. As great as his defensive impact is, I think he is on a perfect team for what he does well. He despite being a 7-footer, does not have to guard centers for as often as most guys his size because he has Isaiah Hartenstein as a bruiser next to him. He has elite defensive players around him who cause havoc, cause turnovers, force guys into bad shots, force guys into bad decisions. And for Chet Holmgren, who's an elite help defender, an elite rim protector, to have to, for other opponents, have to handle Dort, Watson, Cason Wallace, and all those guys, and then you get past those guys, or you fight like hell to get around those guys, and then a 7'1" guy with a 7'7" wingspan is sitting there. Like it. I'm not saying it makes his life easy, but I just think to just put so much of the onus on what Oklahoma City does defensively purely on Chet Holmgren, I don't think is fair. I think that's a team effort. He's great. I think he deserves to be an All-NBA defensive team. But to like Mike Brown's point, like I don't think he meant it this way, but when you say, oh, we got Cat and Brunson, yeah, exactly. Like Jalen Brunson, like minus defender, Cat. His defense was much better this year, but you probably say at best average, not a rim protector. So OG for the Knicks to still be a top 5 defense. OG's ability to guard positions 1 through 5. I don't think there's anybody on that list who made the first team. You got Rudy, you got Chet, Derek White. Like these are not guys who are guarding 1 through 5. Wemby, he's an alien, and he's the defensive player of the year, and like he's great. I'm not like complaining about that. What I'm saying though is comparing OG to these other guys, there is nobody with his versatility defensively. And I think that I agree with Mike Brown that should have been credited more. You can't put any of those guys on Tyrese Maxey, right? But that's what the Knicks can do with OG Anunoby. Like, and also you can put OG Anunoby on Joel Embiid. You can't put Derek White on Joel Embiid, as we saw very clearly in the playoffs, right? When Joel Embiid was hammering Philly and Boston when they tried to go small against him. So like, I think that was a miss. I do think that was a miss. And he kind of barely made second team. It wasn't like he made it like running away. There were other guys who had higher votes than him. I thought OG. I do agree. I think that he should have been first team. Robbery. I don't know if it was a robbery. They're all great defensive players, but I thought I would have taken him over Chet, and I would have taken him over Derek White. I think both of those guys he deserved the spot over. But nonetheless, congrats to the guy. Jalen Brunson, second team, well deserved. I mean, he's Jalen Brunson. I don't think he had a case for first team this year. Cat didn't make third team. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Duren made it ahead of him. Teams had better regular seasons. Cat was kind of like this weird character throughout the year about like he's not impacting the game the way he should. Like if you want to argue that Cat was the last guy, by the way, to just miss out. So that's why he's the next guy to talk about. Like if you want to make a case that those guys had much more even regular seasons, sure, that's fine. I think Cat's a better player than Jalen Duren. I thought he was before this voting came out. I thought he was in terms of even his impact on how he played this year. I thought he was during the regular season. Like a lot of hysteria for Cat. Some of it was for good. Some of it was for good reason. Some of it was nonsense. Some of that voting, I think, kind of because of the talk around him, the dialogue, I think, kind of maybe took away from his. The numbers are there. The numbers are there for him to still have been an All-NBA third team guy, but. To be honest, now Knicks will see who they play in the second round, in the NBA Finals. It could be the Thunder. That's a little bit of a thing to remind Cat of. Hey, by the way, Chet Holmgren, they put him third team ahead of you. OG Anunoby, by the way, Chet, first team ahead of you. That's a little bit, not that this team feels like they need a lot of motivation right now, but that's a little bit that they could use in the next series. So be it. I'm happy with that. But congrats to Jalen. Congrats to OG. Second team All-NBA and second All-Defensive team for both guys, respectively. Awesome accomplishment. And that's going to do it for this edition of Orange and Blue Bloods. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm really hoping we get to talk about the Knicks clutching the NBA Finals next time we do this show. But obviously, I have no control over that. That's up to the guys and the Cavs. I think we will, but, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. I want to thank you guys for joining me, of course. You can catch all these episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to search Orange and Blue Bloods. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the auto download button. And be sure to leave a 5-star review if you can. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, if you want to watch, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel, New Generation Media. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. And make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. That also would be great for us. And that's going to do it. Man, this has been a fun journey so far. And it's nowhere near over. That's what's so crazy about this is the Knicks could win this game and it could be another 9-day break. Not necessarily looking forward to a 9-day break in terms of content. I could use the break, but I'd like to have things to talk about. We're going to have stuff to do. Just like we had guests before, we'll get more guests in. I already got some ideas of who I want to maybe bring in to talk NBA Finals Knicks stuff. Could very well be right around the corner. That'll do it. I'm EJ Stewart. Let's go Knicks. I'll see you guys in a bit. Later.